The last great rivalry we've seen in the NBA was probably the Warriors and Cavs. They met each other in the finals for 4 consecutive years, and every single series was heavily anticipated, even if it was quite lopsided at times. However, since then, we haven't really seen any more marquee rivalries that make the headlines, except, in my opinion, the Bucks and Celtics. These are 2 teams that rose into prominence around the same time, but in completely different ways. The Celtics have been a playoff team for many years despite a ton of changes to their roster. They stockpiled a ton of assets and high draft picks, so they were expected to succeed, and they have. On the other hand, the Bucks' rise has been a much bigger surprise, with a reliance on players who nobody thought could be this good. These 2 teams have faced each other 3 times in the playoffs from 2018 to 2022, including many times in the regular season, which resulted in a handful of intense moments. Some moments sparked controversy and they would take shots at each other. The Bucks and Celtics have actually had a very long-standing rivalry going all the way back to the 1980s, so it's nice to see it get revived. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's break down this new brewing rivalry between the Bucks and Celtics, and how it could blossom into the largest rivalry of this decade. It all started in the 2018 playoffs. At this point in time, the Boston Celtics finished as the 2nd seed in the East, led by Kyrie Irving, though he would be injured right before the playoffs began. Due to his absence, the 7th seed Bucks had a real chance to knock him out, as all eyes were on their young superstar, Giannis. As expected, it was a physical series right off the bat. The Celtics came in as the #1 ranked defense in the NBA, but it certainly didn't look that way. The Bucks shot the lights out, good for a 56.1% effective field goal percentage. It wasn't just Giannis, but Chris Middleton in particular. It was this series where Middleton became known as the Boston Strangler. The dude shot 61% from 3 throughout the 7-game series, and registered the highest offensive rating of anybody in the starting lineup among both teams. It also included the most ridiculous buzzer beater that I've seen live. A game-tying 3-pointer with 0.5 seconds left on the clock. The series got a bit chippy here and there, a lot of physicality, a ton of pushing and shoving, but it's what you expect from 2 hard-nosed teams. There was a point when the Celtics argued that Giannis was getting away with a lot of physicality on defense, claiming that he should have been called for more fouls and that the refs give him a ton of favorable calls. Keep this in mind, because this is a topic that we'll talk about later. Anyway, this series was notable for another reason. It spawned an unlikely rivalry between Giannis and the older, wiser Al Horford. The 2 of them were basically on each other the entire series, and the Celtics found out that Horford might be Giannis's kryptonite. Both offensively and defensively, Horford gave Giannis a ton of trouble. When addressing his struggles to contain Horford, Giannis stated, "I gotta do a better job guarding Horford. He has a really big body, he's under control, he knows where he's going down there. I'll play on my toes and be able to defend without fouling too." Horford finished the series averaging over 18 and 8. It was one of his best playoff performances as a Boston Celtic, and Giannis had an incredibly hard time containing him. Now, if you just look at his numbers, you wouldn't think that he struggled at all against Horford's defense, but numbers don't tell the whole story. Horford forced Giannis to give up the ball so often, and he accomplished it without needing anyone's help. For example, in the pivotal Game 5, Giannis attempted just 10 shots in 41 minutes of playing time. In the deciding Game 7, he held Giannis to 22 points on just 7 of 17 shooting. This matchup between Horford and Giannis would become a crucial aspect of these 2 teams in the upcoming years. And I'd say it's the most important matchup. The 2019 Bucks rolled into the playoffs with a whole new identity. Previously, they were just scraping by, just trying to make the playoffs. They were a mediocre defensive team, 19th in the league, but they made a drastic jump under coach Budenholzer, now equipped with the #1 ranked defense in the league. This time, they had the upper hand, coming in as the 1st seed of the conference, while the Celtics looked a little bit shaky with Kyrie. There were debates on whether or not the Celtics were better without Kyrie, as he shot so poorly and used up so many of their possessions just dribbling around doing nothing. After winning the first game, the Celtics proceeded to lose 4 straight, and some of those games weren't even close. It started to get kind of feisty, as some of the Celtics players were getting irritated with the officiating, especially when it came to the refs' leniency of calling fouls on Giannis. In games 2 and 3, both of which the Bucks came out victorious, Giannis shot 18 free throws and 22 free throws respectively. Now that's a lot of free throws, not gonna lie. A frustrated Kyrie said this after the game. "It's inevitable. A guy comes down almost 6 times in a row and gets free throws. What are you really going to do? It's slowing the game down, the run you would hope to make in a quarter like that. He shot 22 in the game. It's getting ridiculous at this point." During Game 3, the Celtics were in the penalty with 8 minutes remaining in the third quarter. It wasn't just Kyrie complaining either. It got to the point where the Celtics coaches questioned if the refs were gonna call a foul every time someone touches Giannis. With the way he was barreling towards the rim, how are you supposed to defend against him if they don't let you play physically? A year later, this was brought up again during a regular season game in the bubble. After a play where Giannis hit Daniel Tice, it looked like a potential hostile act, as it appeared that Giannis hit him in the groin on purpose. But it was reviewed and determined to be a normal foul, to the dismay of the Celtics. So this was Giannis' 5th foul, but the controversy came afterwards. It seemed like once he got his 5th foul, the refs flat out refused to call the 6th foul on Giannis. They let him get away with some egregious stuff, including a possession where the refs overturned an offensive foul on him and instead called it a blocking foul on Marcus Smart. Of course, Smart wasn't too happy about this. After the game, he said, "Quite frankly, I think we all know what that was about. It was Giannis' 6th foul. They didn't want to get him out. Let's just call that spade a spade." Jaylen Brown followed that up by posting this photo on Instagram, featuring Giannis and his favorite ref, Ken Mauer. Both of them were quite vocal about the ref's bias towards Giannis. The Celtics brass felt like Giannis gets away with just bulldozing through the defense and getting fouls, while other players don't get the same treatment. The Bucks, including coach Mike Budenholzer, fired back, saying, "A foul is a foul. Giannis is such an unstoppable force that you have to hack him and foul him to stop him from getting to the rim. That's just how it is." Fast forward to 2022, and it's been a few years since the Bucks and Celtics matched up in the playoffs. However, this time, they looked like 2 completely different teams. For the Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both blossomed into all-stars over the last few years. In their first few matchups against the Bucks, they were basically role players, and they had just entered the NBA. But now they're leading the team in scoring. For Giannis, he solidified himself as an MVP candidate year after year. Not just that, but the acquisition of Drew Holiday was a huge game changer. A massive improvement over Eric Bledsoe, who seemingly chokes in the playoffs every year. Once again, it was a brutal 7-game series. The old matchup between Horford and Giannis was rekindled. Every time Giannis checked into the game, Ime Udoka put in Horford. Despite being in his mid-30s, few players in the league match up better against Giannis than Horford does. He has the combination of size, length, speed, and intelligence to defend him successfully. While Giannis still put up ridiculous counting stats, his efficiency was quite low by his standards, and his turnovers were through the roof. You could tell from just watching the way Horford defends him, he makes it so difficult for him to score. Horford had a couple of great games himself, and I think the Celtics brought him back for this exact reason, to neutralize Giannis. Looking towards the future, I think this rivalry is here to stay. Both teams' main stars are fairly young. They're going to be playing at this level for a while. I can see them battling for the Eastern Conference crown for the next half-decade, at least. Overall, there isn't that much bad blood between these 2 teams, at least not yet. But every game is as intense as the last. That's what we want to see from a real rivalry. Anyway, that's all folks. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.